These are 5 early signs of anxiety. Understand this is not a diagnosis video. It is up to you to see a mental health professional to get the proper diagnosis if you show even just one of these signs. So the first sign, guys, is negative thinking, seeing the glass half empty, all right? Having that pessimistic mindset. Now, for me as a child, I was a fearful child, so obviously a lot of negativity comes with fear. But whenever I got into junior high, and especially into high school, my environment started to get a lot better. My outlook got better. I gained more friends. I became more popular. I had the girlfriend, I had the car, the job. I was a musician. I made great grades. I had multiple scholarship offers for college. Everything seemed to be going great for me, but I still had this problem where if I had 90 things in one day go great, I would focus on the 3 that didn't go great, all right? I had a problem with being gracious and being thankful for what I had. And don't get me wrong, I was a great kid. This wasn't outward projected. This was all happening inside, which made it even worse because nobody was able really to call me out and say, Trey, you need to be thankful or you need to be happy. I beat myself up a lot. I struggle with self-love. So my negative thinking really got out of hand starting in junior high and moving into high school, and then that carried on into college, and then that's eventually where I had my first major panic attack. So if you find yourself always looking at the glass half empty, you have a hard time being thankful, being gracious for what you have, or if you have a tendency to focus on the negatives, even if they're far in between in your life, then this could be the beginning of something. When we think of anxiety, we always think of the chest pain, the shortness of breath, the anxiety attacks, the panic attacks. Where do you think that starts from? It comes from our thought processes. The next one is excessive nervous energy. Keyword excessive. I know every human's gonna have some nervous energy at some point in their life, but if you're anything like me, I had this every single day. We're talking about bouncing your hands, always having to fidget with something, bouncing your leg up and down. One of my personal favorites, pacing back and forth, back and forth. It didn't matter where I was. Not being able to sit down. So many times when I would go to people's houses, they say, sit down, you're making me nervous. That was pretty much an everyday thing as well. Now you can do this in small amounts, but if you're like me, it was excessive. I did it pretty much nonstop throughout my day. It can be an indicator that my subconscious was not really super happy. It was actually nervous, it was scared, it was unsettled. And this nervous energy was just basically me being on edge throughout the day to possibly get away from some danger. See, my mind was like, if I sit down, then I'm not gonna be able to spring into action or get away from something if something dangerous were to happen or life-threatening were to happen. I didn't see it like that at the time, but that's actually what was going on. The next one, guys, is unhealthy coping mechanisms, and I'm mainly talking about stuff that we do to ourselves. We think these are harmless, but overall, they're not healthy, okay? Even down to biting your nails. I know some of you bite your nails. Some of you will bite them down to the nubs where there's nothing left, where they're sore, where they're bleeding. I didn't necessarily have a huge issue with the nail biting. I know my sister did. But something that I had that was a really unhealthy coping mechanism that started whenever I was really, really small was biting my lips, biting my cheek, and biting my tongue. I know a lot of you deal with that. I would actually bite my lip until I would get an infection. I had to go to the doctor multiple times to get antibiotics because my lip actually got infected. I would always have ulcers in my mouth. And I would do this a lot whenever I would go to sleep, which kind of makes sense because I was very fearful. I was afraid of the dark. I had nightmares. I had night terrors. I was always paranoid at night, so I'd start in on biting my tongue and my cheek, and then the next day I would wake up and it would be sore. I would actually do this while I was asleep as well. So that's an unhealthy coping mechanism. Skin picking is another one, guys, that I'm throwing in with the unhealthy coping mechanisms. If I had a scab, I'd peel it. I know it's TMI, but I started doing that whenever I was a little kid. If I had a pimple, I was gonna mess with it or I was gonna pop it. If I had dry skin, I was gonna pick at it. If I had pieces of skin near my cuticle, I was gonna rip it off. I had huge issues with this. A lot of times whenever I would have a sore that would get a scab, it wouldn't heal for such a long time because I basically couldn't help myself and I would mess with it and pick at it, okay? So it slowed down the healing process. Pulling hair and pulling it out. I've known a few people in my life. This can actually start when you're a child. Hair pulling hair out, and it could be hair anywhere. It could be hair on your arms, your eyebrows, you know, and obviously your head hair. So hair pulling is another unhealthy coping mechanism. The next one is having a habit of saying sorry too much. This is something that started whenever I was a small child, and I pretty much did it all the way up until I was a young adult. I'm a lot better now. Rule of thumb, only say sorry for the things that you can control. I mean, I was saying sorry to people that did me wrong. That's how bad it got. I know a lot of you can relate. People with anxiety have high emotional IQs, not to mention the intelligence IQs, but high emotional IQs, which means you have a big heart. People with anxiety tend to think of other people more than themselves. I encourage you guys to start working on that today. That is just gonna make your anxiety worse. You're gonna struggle with self-love. You're not gonna give yourself the tender care that you deserve. You need attention too. You matter as well, okay? So if you're struggling with that, rule of thumb again, say sorry for the things that are your fault or things that you can actually control. Everything else, let that go. And unfortunately, when you say sorry all the time, people are gonna start picking up on that, and they're gonna start realizing like, look, I could take advantage of this person. This person always feels guilty, so I can guilt trip them. That happened a lot during my life. It led to me actually being bullied whenever I was a smaller kid up to about junior high level. I wasn't very assertive. I didn't stand up for myself, right? Because I always cared about other people more so than myself. So start working on that today. And the next one, guys, is you spend a lot of time in the past or the future. I know we hear that saying where the past is depression, the future is anxiety. I think the past can be anxiety as well. So this really started for me at a young age. I was always worried about something that was coming up. My innocence started to leave me very, very early. You know, whenever you're young, you feel invincible. You're in the present moment. You're very, very good at being present. That innocence left me quite early. In fact, whenever I was 10 years old, I started to fast forward all the way to my death, which is pretty morbid. That's not something a 10-year-old should think about, but I had problems with always worrying about something that's far ahead and something that's already happened. I know it's easier said than done to just let the past stay in the past, but that's something I had to start working on in recovery, and I had to start saving the fear for the moment. If I had something coming up that I was nervous about, I'm gonna be nervous that day. I'm not gonna be nervous about it the weeks leading up to it because I'm just gonna waste my life. So hopefully you can adapt that as well. Two quick things before you leave, guys. I'm gonna put my anxiety recovery course down below in the description and in the first pinned comment. If you're tired of anxiety, you're tired of the symptoms, and you're ready to start living the life that you freaking deserve, I urge you, strongly urge you to go check out that course. I put everything into it, my daily routine, my blueprint on how to recover from anxiety, just like I did. Start your recovery today. Also up here, I'm gonna put a video. I want you to please go check that out. I recorded it earlier this afternoon, so I did do 2 uploads. I'll put the link down below as well. In case you don't see this, but I want you to go check that out. If you have loved ones, friends, people in your life that you want to explain anxiety to, that video is gonna help you out with that. So go check that out. You could actually share that with your friends or your loved ones to help them understand your anxiety a little bit better, all right? Be sure to hit the like button if you got value, subscribe if you're new, and until next time, guys, keep fighting. I love you all.